And apparently they're going to ban smoking at pubs. Is this correct? Or it'll be beer next at pubs, won't it? Our mate Nigel Farage is up in arms quite rightly, Matt.
Yeah, well, that's right. So what we're going to see is actually the extension of some legislation that came in or was tabled by Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives to basically phase out tobacco and smoking. And Keir Starmer's taken that a step further in saying that now you can't even have a cigarette outside the pub with your pint. That is now going to be essentially outlawed. And of course, for many people, why this matters is it's really representing this authoritarian streak within the Labour government. It likes to talk a lot about tolerance. It likes to talk a lot about diversity and liberalism. But actually, Keir Starmer's Labour government is pretty authoritarian. That's what we're learning only a few weeks into its time in office. And just briefly, one other thing that we've just discovered they're going to bring in is the use of so-called non-hate crime incidents, which are these remarkably Orwellian things where basically you can get a criminal record by not actually doing anything illegal. It's just if you say something that somebody else perceives to be offensive. So this is, again, I think, the land of Magna Carta and individual liberty going through a difficult moment.
Rita.
Oh, it is sinister. And I do wonder whether the Brits know how much of the world's looking at them right now. And you've got Sir Keir Starmer railing against the far right again. And yet, I don't know if you can tell us, update us, but last I checked, nothing said about the Notting Hill Carnival where hundreds were arrested, multiple people stabbed. And yet he's still focused on those riots that broke out after the tragic murder of those 3 little girls.
I was very disappointed with Keir Starmer's speech, as I think a lot of people were. We should also just note, this isn't my opinion, in the leadership ratings in all of our national polls, he's down by about 30 points since coming into power. I mean, this guy is quickly becoming one of the most unpopular prime ministers that we've had in a long time. In fact, as I'm talking to you, only a couple of hours ago, we had a new poll out this evening showing that compared to when Labour won the election at the beginning of July, Keir Starmer's ratings are down 36 points. So people really haven't warmed to him at all. He's now minus 13, which I guess if you don't know what that means, he's not too far off what we'd call Prince Harry territory. Point. They are.
Love it.
What was remarkable about the speech this week, is he kind of doubled down on what we saw during those riots and protests over immigration. He just basically said, half the country is far right and they're Nazis, and I'm not interested in acknowledging what they're concerned about. I'm not going to talk about the small boats, which again have now passed 20,000 illegal migrant crossings this year alone. That's up 3% on last year. He didn't talk about net migration. He didn't talk about criminality. And here we are with the Notting Hill Carnival, celebrated by Labour politicians because it's a symbol of diversity. We've got 2 people dead in the streets, 2 people who have died because of stabbings at that event, physical assaults. It's a controversial point, maybe, but more people died at the Notting Hill Carnival, apparently celebrating diversity, than died during the immigration protests. Nobody, to my knowledge, actually died during those protests. So again, this notion of 2-tier Britain, this notion of different groups and different events being treated differently according to the politics is really now ringing loudly across the country.
James.
And I mean, just so many bizarre stories coming out about the Starmer regime, and I'm using the word regime here deliberately. Even the fact that they have removed a portrait of Margaret Thatcher from 10 Downing Street. This sounds absolutely bizarre to me.
Well, it's no secret that many people on the left have a very strong dislike of Margaret Thatcher. Although what is interesting is that picture, or the portrait, was actually put up, I think I'm right in saying, by Gordon Brown, the Labour Prime Minister. And of course, Gordon Brown invited Margaret Thatcher to number 10 Downing Street. And I think actually what you're seeing is something of a changing of the guard on the left, a new, more intolerant, authoritarian left party than perhaps what it used to be. The other story this week that's really annoyed people is the Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner being seen clubbing in Ibiza
Yes.
at a night, which it
yes.
costs €200 to get into and 20 or 30 euros for a drink, while Labour are presiding over pretty sweeping cuts to pensioners' fuel allowance this winter. So that's gone down like a lead balloon as well. This is the Labour Party not thinking about the optics.